So you may have seen my DIY 87 key macro keyboard video on Linus Tech Tips. So for the secondary keyboard in this video, I show you how to use Lua macros to make it work. But the trouble with Lua macros is it just does not work sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't block the keystroke and it's just buggy and overall bad. So I ended up Googling around and I found a better alternative. This is a post by Kamaz on the Orbiter forums. I think that's a game. Yes, it is. And he has created a tool called Intercept.exe, which in my opinion is far better than Lua macros. Now, there's some instructions here on how to do it, but honestly, these aren't very good, and some of this is out of date. There's actually a new post by Geoff on the AutoHotkey forums that talks about it, but this also is a little hard to follow because he doesn't tell you how to actually install the damn thing, which is why I am going to show you exactly how to do it. So first thing you got to do is go to my GitHub of second-keyboard. That's this link right here. And here's all of the code that I use in my daily work. It's all freely available, but right now for today, we're just interested in Intercept. So click on that. And here we have a very nicely formatted README file that shows exactly the steps for installing Interception, which is very tricky, and then using Intercept.exe in the way that I do in tandem with AutoHotkey. So if you are a clever beaver, then by all means, you don't need to watch this video. Go ahead and just do it. But for those of you who are still struggling with this README file, I'm going to go through everything line by line. I'm going to videotape my screen, and I'm also going to videotape my keyboards down here so that you don't miss anything. So let's get started. Okay, downloading Interception. Navigate to this page. Click on Download the latest release, which is down here. Click on that, and then click on Interception.zip. Obviously, none of this works if you're on a Macintosh. Open with, do I really only have pzip? Oh, pzip sucks. Let's just extract that to the Downloads folder. Okay, so that's all very easy, obviously. Now we install. We need to find the location of install-interception.exe. Okay, this is where it starts to get really annoying. So right here, Interception, command line installer, install-interception.exe. This is what you're looking for, and this right here in the address bar, copy that information. Open the start menu and type in cmd to get a command prompt. Do not press enter. Right click on it and say run as administrator. This is really important because if you don't do this, yes, run, then you will not get the administrator command prompt. This is the only path to success that I know of. Okay, so right now you see that you're actually in the directory for Windows and System32. You don't want to be there. So what you do is you type in cd, which stands for change directory, then a space, and then you paste that address and press enter. Right, so now you should be located at this address. And of course, your username is going to be different from mine. And the location that you put it is going to be different from where I put it. And now we're at a critical point here. You have to type in exactly this text. So let's do that. Install-interception.exe space / install. Enter. Oh, there we go. So now that that's installed successfully, you need to restart your computer in order to complete the installation. Okay, so now that you've restarted your computer, you can go back to the second keyboard GitHub location of mine. Okay, download Kamaz's Intercept.exe from here. So click on that, and we'll open that with pzip or whatever unzipping software you have. Pzip is terrible, it seems. Extract. Just going to shove that in downloads. Okay. All right, so now we also have Intercept. So what you do is you just go in there and double click on it, and ta-da, here we are in Intercept. So now the two different keyboards are very important from this point on. What you want to do is create just a couple of filters. I want you to create filters for Q, W, E, and R, just so that you know exactly how to do it. So I'm going to press A to add a new filter, A. And now I have to press the next key that I want on the secondary keyboard because this is the one that is going to be intercepted and used. I'm going to press Q. Okay, and notice that it's Q, and that's supposed to be a down, but it's a question mark because whatever. So that's Q down. On the keyboard, blah, 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 blah. This is the unique ID for this exact keyboard, and this keyboard is, it's the CM Storm Rapid 1 or whatever. So now what we need to do is enter a combo for this. The combo I want you to use, and it doesn't actually matter anymore which keyboard you type on. It can be your primary or your secondary keyboard. And very carefully do this. F12 down, Q up, F12 up. And then you press escape to complete the combination. And that's important because you're basically wrapping the keystroke in another keystroke. So watch this. That's all you do. And then escape. And now you say enter filter label. Okay, I'm going to label this Q. And then you press enter to accept that. And now you have a little rundown of exactly what you did. Q down on the keyboard. That will result in the combo F12, Q, and then F12 again. And it's labeled Q. Save filter yes with an S. If you mess it up, you can do a C to cancel that. So let's add another filter. Let's add a W this time. So A to add. Let's make sure that we're on the second keyboard when we do this. W for that filter. Let's see what happens if I accidentally hold them down for too long. Yeah, so that's the wrong way to do it. Let's say escape to keep going, enter filter label, delete me, enter, and let's just say C to cancel that one. So now let's do it the proper way. Add a filter, W, very carefully, F12 with the W inside of it, escape to go, enter filter label, W, enter, and save. Okay, and let's just do the last two as well. Add a filter E, wrap it in F12, filter label E, enter, save. And just one more, add filter R, wrap it in F12, escape, label is R, enter, and S to save. Okay, good. Now what you can do is you can just press L to make sure you have all those filters. There's the labels of them. We have quir. And what you can also do is say apply, but that won't do anything other than, oh, actually you can type on them and it notices that there's something going on. Okay, so I want you to close out of Intercept.exe just for the moment, and now it'll stop running. We've just done all of this. Now let's create the autohotkey script that actually picks up the info and does everything that we want. So if you don't have autohotkey, please download it from autohotkey.com. Download. I already have it though. And now we are on this step. So let's go to the desktop, right click, and say new autohotkey script. Okay, and we're going to call this baby's first extra keyboard.autohotkey. Enter. Just because it's a funny name and I'm a funny guy. Okay, so now do not double click on it because that won't do anything. You need to right click on it and say edit with Notepad++. But if you don't have Notepad++, that's okay. I'm going to assume that you don't. So let's just use plain old Notepad for this. Okay, here we go. Here is the script you have so far. This is just some nice stuff that it gives you automatically when you create an autohotkey script. It doesn't matter. You don't actually need any of this right now. Okay, so let's continue reading along. Copy and paste all of this directly into the script. There. Now save the file. Save. And double click on it to get it running. And now you have a little icon down here, baby's first extra keyboard.autohotkey. Ignore these other icons that I have. These are other scripts that I'm running at the moment. And now what you need to do is make sure Intercept is running and press Y to apply all the filters. Let's just minimize that. And now if you open up a notepad, let's just make a new one here. Let's just type in on this one, let's say QWERTY. Okay, the normal keyboard works, that's good. Now let's try the secondary keyboard. Q, oh, it's a text box. W, it's another text box. E, that's a tooltip, and R. Aha! This is the code that you just witnessed. You can change this code. You can say message box, screw you, and you should be typing with the primary keyboard now. Control S to save. double click on it to run, press Q on the secondary keyboard, and it says, screw you. Oh, that's amazing. So it works. And that's it. And you can just continue to add new keys like T and give that one a thing that it'll do. You pressed T, and let's just save that. Double click on it. And press T. Guess what? It doesn't work though, because you didn't make a filter for T in Intercept. Let's take a look at the INI file that it has already created. I'm going to edit this with Notepad. Here are all of your filters in just plain old code. And you can see that the trigger is key number 10, down, which is what that 0 means. And now you have converted it into 58 down, and that's F12. 10 down, that's Q. 10 up, and 58 up. That's F12 again. This is called a scan code. Every single key has a unique scan code for it. And you can see that Q is 10, W is 11, and so on and so forth. So what you have to do is you have to make filters for every single one. However, that is going to be extremely time consuming. So I've already created a keyremap.ini file for you. So what you do is you go to my GitHub and you find this, and ta-da, it's all right here. Oh, look, there's all the keys. Download this, and I don't actually know where the download button is. So what I do is, this is stupid, is I just click on the raw, and it gives me the raw code, and so I just Control A to select all of that, and then I copy it. And now what you want to do is, you see this? Do not delete it. Make yourself a new folder that says, old key remap I did myself. Seriously, just name it that, and move it in there. There, done. And now, you need to create a new, let's just say a new text document, and call it keyremap.ini. Okay, we've got a new INI file. Let's open this with Notepad and paste in our script and save. Okie dokie. And now, if we open Intercept and we say list filters, oh, look, you have all of these filters. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work because all of these filters have the wrong keyboard ID. So let's close that out one more time. So let's go back to our keyremap.ini. Let's open it up. And this time I'm just going to use Notepad++. I don't expect you to have this, but it's just nice because it has syntax highlighting and everything. So you can see that a line that begins with a semicolon is green, and that means that it's commented out, and so it won't interfere with the script at all. These are just comments. So here we have a bunch of key remaps, but the thing is, this is what is crucially important right here. This is the device ID for a Logitech K120 keyboard. And if we go and we look at our old key remap, the one that you did yourself, edit that with Notepad, and you will see, I'm just going to copy this, paste that in. It is a different one, totally different. So in fact, what you need to do is highlight one of these and hit Control F to do a find and replace, or maybe Control R, whatever. Get to find and replace, paste in that device ID that you got from your own secondary keyboard, which in my case is the Cooler Master one, and say replace all. Ta-da! And now all of these keys are from the correct device ID. And now we save that file. However, there's one more thing we have to be aware of. If you go back to your autohotkey script that you created, Baby's First Extra Keyboard, and you open that up, I'm just going to open it in Notepad this time. Notice how it is actually searching for F12. And I did that because you don't have an F23 on your keyboard, but I would like for you to change this to F23 because all of this code is not wrapped in F12. It is actually wrapped in F23. That's what this 6E is representative of. That's the scan code for F23. So to match that, go back to your autohotkey script and change all the F12s into F23s. And now we save it, we double click on it, and we ensure that Intercept.exe is running with a Y to apply filters. It totally works. Okay, now returning to your keyremap.ini file for the moment, if you decide you want to use your own file, that's fine. And if you also decide that you want to change the F12 key to any other key, in my case I use F23, all you got to do is find the scan code of the key that you used to wrap the other keys in, which in this case is 58, which represents F12. Highlight that, and I decided to highlight 58, 0, just to be absolutely sure I don't mess anything else up. And then do a find and replace, change that text to the scan code of the key that you actually want to use instead. So in my case, I changed it to 6E, 0, Now the 0 in the middle, I don't know what it does, I don't know what it means, it always seems to be there. I just decided not to search for simply 58 because the number 58 might be somewhere else in the script and you don't want to accidentally change something else. But I'm just giving you that as an example. I don't actually want you to use this one anymore unless you want to, manually go in and add every single key. But what I really want you to do instead is to just use my keyremap.ini. This is the one that has all of the keys in it already, and this will work perfectly fine, probably. Now, it might still have some problems because your keyboard might use slightly different keys than mine does. So the scan codes might not necessarily be exactly the same. And if that happens, it's okay. All you got to do, just like I showed you, is to just go in here and add another one and label it appropriately. And then you can delete the bad one in here, or you can just comment it out. Okay. So assuming that everything works fine with your keyremap.ini file and Intercept.exe is working with it, now you need an autohotkey script that also has every single key listed on it. And again, what you could do is you could just, manually type in every single one of these, U, I, O, P. But that's also going to get really tedious because you're going to have to map out every single key. Never mind all that, it doesn't matter, I've already done it for you. Oh, amazing, yay, hooray! So again, go back to Taran's second keyboard, github/intercept, and take a look here. I have full extra keyboards.autohotkey. Click on that, and you can see here that I've mapped every single key on the keyboard. So all you got to do is download this. Is there a download button? Okay, once again, I have no idea how to download stuff from GitHub. Again, I'm just going to click on the raw, Control A to select everything, Control C to copy, and I'm just going to paste it into a new thing here. And I'm going to save this as full extra keyboard.autohotkey. Save. Okay, so however you obtain it, just go get my file, full extra keyboard.autohotkey. Open it up in Notepad or Notepad++. Now make sure that baby's first extra keyboard is not running. Let's find that and kill it. And let's make sure that we have full extra keyboard.autohotkey running instead. Yes, we do. Okay, and let's make sure that Intercept is running. Yes. And now, as you can see, I'm pressing keys on the second keyboard, and the tooltips always appear. You pressed T, you pressed U, you pressed B, you pressed F1, and I get a little message box. You pressed F3, but do not get a beep. You pressed F2, and you get a beep. That's just magical. These are all totally magical. With the exception of the modifier keys, which I've intentionally not blocked, every other key seems to be blocked, and every single time that I press a key, I get a little tooltip. So what you can do is, instead of tooltips, you can program literally anything you want in here. It's magnificent. You want something to do more than one line of stuff, you got to write it out this way, don't have anything on this line, and you can write as much code as you like and then end it with a little return so that we can go on to the next keystroke. Basically, normal autohotkey scripting rules apply. If you don't know how to script in autohotkey, then you're going to need to teach yourself some of that. There's lots of really great documentation, lots of tutorials. Check that all out. But this is just normal autohotkey from this point on. So basically how this works is this line right here, the hashtag if, is extremely important. It's constantly listening to see if F23 is being physically held down. And if it is, then every single thing underneath that point is capable of happening. So what I've done is I've just listed out all the other keys. So it'll only execute the code associated with each of these keys if F23 is being held down. And right there at the end, you see that there's another octothorpe if. Basically, that just means the end of the code for F23. Now, one thing that is very important, and don't ask me why, you have to put a return for the F23 keystroke itself. I'm not entirely sure exactly how it works, but that is very important to have in there, so don't forget. And by the way, this will always tell you exactly which keyremap.ini it's actually using right here. So in case you ever forget, now you know. Okay, and that's it. Now you should have the ability to use a secondary keyboard as a purely macro keyboard and not have the weird stability problems that Lua Macros has. Now there are a few. Intercept.exe does also have its own instability problems, so I'm going to tell you about those real quick. If I actually type on the secondary keyboard too quickly, it will actually accidentally let some keystrokes through. So let's just take a quick look at that. Let's see if I can get that behavior to happen again. So you can see that I was able to type some letters on the secondary keyboard. It looks like I've actually frozen Intercept. I'm still pressing the keys. They're still being blocked. Actually, now they're being blocked from both keyboards. And now that I've closed it, both keyboards work. But let's try launching the filters again. Okay, looks like now it's back to normal, right? So just be careful. Don't mash at keys, because it's not perfect. Also, another really weird problem I have is that F9, even though it is being blocked using autohotkey, it still actually passes through and seems to pause my recording or start it back up again, even though I'm on a second keyboard. Let's just see if that still happens. Yeah, see, that still happened, and I think that's because XSplit is actually picking up the F9 keystroke before autohotkey is able to pick up that keystroke and block it. But XSplit is the only program that I've found that seems to be the exception to this rule. Pretty much all the rest of the time, autohotkey is going to grab that keystroke first and do whatever you want with it, including block it if that's what you want to do. So yeah, I know Intercept.exe is not perfect. I'm still searching for the perfect program for this secondary keyboard, purely macro, whatever. If any of you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. It's kind of funny, so many people have been tweeting at me and sending me links and stuff to all of these fancy, really expensive keyboards that can do macros or even have like individual screens on every single key, and then the screen can change when you press on it or do anything. All this incredibly fancy stuff. Yeah, if you buy an expensive keyboard, it's all done for you. But the advantage of doing it this way, with either Lua Macros or Intercept.exe, is that you can use literally any keyboard in the world. You don't need to throw money at your problems. You can just take the time, take the effort, learn a new skill, and that's what this is about. And that's why I make these tutorials for you guys, because I want to share these solutions that I come up with. Not just for Premiere, but for anything you can do on a computer. So, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I hope I didn't miss any fine details. If you are still having trouble, too bad, so sad. I can't answer every single question. This tutorial was extremely detailed, and you're just going to have to struggle with it a little bit and figure it out. Oh, and I almost forgot. If you want more than just a second keyboard, if you want a third keyboard or a fourth keyboard, you can do that too very easily. All you got to do is exactly what I already showed you. Just use A to add new keys. It will put a new device ID right at the end of your keyremap.ini file. It'll have all the new keys, and you can do the combos again. And once you're done with that, you can have a fourth keyboard or a fifth keyboard. And of course, you have to associate it with an autohotkey script. So at the end of this little example one I've given you, here we have the third keyboard. And this is a USB numpad, so there's not that many keys on it. So I've just done tooltips again, but you can of course do anything you like. And of course, this one uses F22 in order to work rather than F23 because that's already taken. And if you wanted any more, you would use F21 or F20, or and if you run out of F keys, then you can grab virtual keys. And on a third keyboard, and you can have a run of those, or start using other right in hand, or a 7th virtual keys, or a 9th double layer, or a 10th keyboard, and you can just continue to make more and more keyboards. And you'll never run out of keyboards. Your keyboards forever. Keyboards for days.
Maybe you could just have some chickens.
This is Taran.
And maybe your chickens will love you, even if your keyboards don't. What?